So we're going to start with 4-point roll-ups, rolling all the way down, a little pulse, lying flat, and then lift, pulse, C-curve forward, and then rolling straight back, neutral pelvis, tapping the thoracic down and then return to neutral shoulders, lift, tap the thoracic and then C-curve forward, glutes engaged, ribs to hips, and 2 more. So tucking the tailbone up to the ceiling, return to neutral shoulder blades, and then sliding the ribs down towards the hips so you really open up the thoracolumbar area. And 1 more co-contraction of the back of the legs and your abdominals. And then really slide the ribs down, co-contraction of the glutes and the tummy, and then return to a neutral sitting position. So roll-ups with back extension, roll all the way back, go into a thoracic extension, lift your chest up, return ribs to hips to neutral, and then C-curve forward. Ribs to hips, return to neutral, and then C-curve back, engaging the back of the legs. Bend your elbows as you lift your chest up. Return back to neutral, C-curve forward. And then return to sitting. 2 more. So the challenge here is to keep the co-contraction of the back of the legs and the abs, keeping the lower abdominals engaged as you extend your chest. And then slide the ribs down to engage your obliques. C-curve forward, glutes engaged so you lift up and out of the lower spine. Rolling back, back of the legs engaged. Bend your elbows, lifting the ribs up without using your lower back. So we're working the mid-back muscles there. C-curve forward and then return back to sitting. Into stomach massage 3. Grab a sticky mat, put that around the bar. And then you're going to line your back with your hands on the poles. Put your legs over the bar. Your knees are hip bone width apart with your left ankle on top of your right ankle. Hands are pressing against the poles. Scapula neutral, neutral pelvis. Now tap your toes down, imprint your lower back, engaging your glutes, and then lift up onto your shoulders, knees towards your forehead. Keeping your pelvis where it is, hip extension here, working the back of the legs, and then fold the knees back in towards your head. Roll down through the spine, imprint the lower back, and then return back to neutral. Then toes tap, hold the feet onto the table, co-contract glutes and abdominals. Keeping that co-contraction, knees towards your forehead, and then go into hip extension here whilst remaining in neutral. And then fold at the hips, hip disassociation. Roll down through the spine, keeping the scapula laterally rotated, return back to neutral. Cross your ankles over, imprint your lower back, tap the toes down, keep the toes on the table, glutes engaged, fold the knees in towards your head, lifting up, co-contraction of the hamstrings and your abs, and then fold at the hips, roll down through the spine with length. Imprint the lower back. Once the knees are over the hips, return to neutral. 1 more. Imprint the lower back, tap the toes down, keep them down, squeeze the buttocks, lifting up, fold, and then roll down through the spine. Once the knees are over the hips, return back to neutral. Hamstring stretch, grab hold of the bar and then put both feet on the bar and then bend and straighten your legs a few times, anchoring the tailbone down towards the table. Keeping the inside thighs, the adductors engaged by pressing the legs towards one another. And then really anchoring the tailbone down. Lower the left leg down, keeping the right foot on the spring bar, stretching the back of your right leg. If that's too intense, you can have your knees bent. Breathing length into the hips, and then the other leg. So left leg on, right leg down. Breathing space and length into your body. Check into your shoulders, keep them soft. Co-contraction of the thigh and the back of the leg as you push the thighs away from you. And releasing the bar, roll onto your side to sit up, and we're going to do push through bar top loaded curl ups with some knee floats. This is an abdominal and pelvic stability exercise. It's also great for strengthening your mid-back muscles for your neck support. So your head's on the headrest, knees and feet parallel, hands wide. Do a curl up, anchor your shoulders away from your ears, lift your right knee up and then the left, and then both legs. And then lower the head down, breathe in to prepare, breathing out to curl, draw the ribs in towards your hips, then float the left knee up, place it back down, right leg up, place it back down, both legs up, place it back down, do a little lift and then back down, keep the abs engaged. Pressing the armpits down towards the hips will strengthen those mid-back muscles, so you shouldn't feel this in your neck. As you lift the knees up, we're testing your pelvic stability, and then as you lift both legs up, just testing that transversus abdominis connection, that deep layer. Curling up. So you want to lift your shoulders off by pressing the lower rib cage down and towards the table. Imagine there's a glass of water on your belly button there, making sure that the water doesn't move. Obliques in chair, left hand over to the right, right hand behind your head, knees up into tabletop. Now lift the shoulder blades off, but more so the left, and then pulse. 2, 3, 4. Keep pulling the armpits down towards the hips to support the neck. 10 of these. 8, 9, 10, and then the other side. Right hand over to the left, left hand behind the head. Lift up, and then it's like you're lifting the lower ribs off and then tapping them back down. The lower back stays in a neutral position. And then return back down. Now into toe taps in a curl up. So lift your head and your chest up, tap one toe down and then the other toe, keep your chest lifted. 3, 4, focus on clamping the armpits down, really activating the lats and serratus by widening the shoulder blades. They'll help you connect to your oblique muscles and the deep pelvic floor. Pelvic stability challenge here as you tap the feet. And then lower the head down. And then sitting up, we'll go into hip rolls with single leg extension. So you're lying on the table, grab hold of the poles, knees in tabletop, roll onto your left hip. Now extend your right leg out, then bend and then return. Roll onto the right hip, extend the left leg out, bend and return. Breathing in to roll, breathing out to extend, breathing in to bend, breathing out to return. The challenge here is to keep the opposite shoulder blade imprinted into the table. So we're really strengthening the scapular area. Think of pressing the lower rib cage down once again to get into the obliques, the upper obliques around the front of the ribs. Really nice stretch for your spine. Try and keep the knees together as best as you can as you extend the legs out. Well done. Put your feet down, roll onto your side. And we'll go into kneeling arm springs. Grab the arm springs. We'll start with lat pull with rotation and hinge. Neutral pelvis, spine and shoulders. Pull the right arm by your side and then rotate deeper. Hold that hinge from the knees, return, and then the arm returns forward. So the left arm slides by your side, reaches back, hold that, hinge from the knees, return, and then rotate forward. So using the muscles on the right side of the shoulders, the right side of your spine, working the thighs and the glutes, pressing into both hands, strengthening the right side of your spine and the shoulder, hinging back, push your feet into the table to activate the quads. The glutes, the sit bones are drawing down to the back of the thighs so that the hips are being stabilized from the front and the back. Triceps with extension, elbows in at 90, neutral pelvis and spine, straighten the elbows as you lift your chest up. 2, we'll do 6 of these. 3, and rather than going back, think of lifting your breastplate up out of the pubic bone and then return the ribs to the hips, stretching up and then return with length. The challenge here is to keep the scapula stable and the arms nice and steady by your side. Bicep with a hinge, so get rid of the push-through bar. You'll need to move back slightly, hinge back, co-contraction of the glutes and the thighs, and then from the arm bones are parallel to the floor, we move the forearms from the elbows. Keeping steady from knees to hips, and then we'll do a single arm. You'll notice how this challenges your stability there. Return back onto your knees. Turn around and we'll do hug a tree with side reach. Arms are out to the side, neutral pelvis and spine. Lean ever so slightly forward with your arms in front of you and you'll feel your core working there. Open the arms out to peripheral vision and then draw your hands in. Laterally bend to one side, return to neutral. Laterally bend to the other, return to the neutral position. Keeping the torso stable there, keeping the hands forward as you laterally rotate is a challenge on your stabilizing muscles in your shoulders. You keep the hands pressing into the straps from the obliques, zipping up and out of your pelvis. Hamstrings are contractioning with your thighs. It actually feels like a really nice stretch on your spine. Keeping the scapula wide, laterally rotated is a challenge here with the arms pressing against the springs. Breathing in to bend, breathing out to return. Good. Push-ups in a lunge. Step your right foot forward, hinge forward, protect that left knee as best you can, and then pressing the arms forward, return. Breathe out to push, breathing in to return. Steady movement on the way out, steady movement on the way in. So you're controlling the springs, initiating from the armpits through to the heels of the hands. Keep the arms out in front, step the right leg back and then the left leg forward. So you're in a hip flexor stretch here. Now bend your elbows and then press the wall away from you. Return. Keeping the muscles in your arms engaged as you return. 3. We'll do about 6 of these. 4. Pressing from the armpits to hands. 5. 6. Keep the arms out in front, step that left leg back. Zombies. So the arms are parallel to the floor. You are hinging forward from the knees, but you're in a neutral pelvis and spine. The arms go up towards the ceiling and then return. The challenge here is to move the arms up and down without the torso going back and forward. You can really feel your core and your shoulder stabilizers working there. Don't let the shoulder blades draw in towards the spine. You want to keep pressing the hands towards the handles there, so you've got serratus and lats engaged. 10 of these. Single arm salute. Hands into your forehead and then reach the arm up. Single arm. From the temple, reach out to the diagonal. From the temple, reach up to the horizontal bar. The challenge here is to keep the scapula once again laterally rotated and slightly depressed. If I was to touch the upper trapezius muscles, they'd be soft here. And think of pressing the armpits towards the direction they're facing to get that lateral rotation. Into a lunge chest stretch. Right foot forward, lunging forward. Really rotating the humerus bone, your arm bone, opening and rolling open the chest and the pecs. Breathing into the lower ribs, the mid ribs, the upper ribs to give you a lift up out of the pelvis and to get into pec minor. Left leg forward, rolling the arm bones open to get into pec minor and pec major. Breathing into the chest and the upper ribs to allow that area in the shoulders to stretch. If I was to poke around the lower abs, they're engaged. And then step back. I'm just putting the arm springs to the side here. We're not going to use them again. Grab a sticky mat. We're about to do bottom loaded leg work. Put the push through bar inwards. Put the sticky mat on the bar to support your feet. If you've got Pilates socks, then you probably don't need to use a sticky mat. So I'm just winding that around there. Safety strap goes onto the push through bar. We take the top spring off. Safety strap first at a height that's good for you. And then the bottom loaded springs get attached to make sure that they're not caught in in a twisted position at its attachment. And then the other side. 2 bottom loaded springs is strong. If that's too strong, then you just take one of them off. We're going to go into some plies, bottom loaded. Head on the headrest, shoulders in line with the edge of the table. Toes out wide and legs in external rotation. Straighten the legs and then bend. Breathing out to straighten, breathing in to bend. You're in a slight rise, keeping the calves stable in that rise. As you extend the legs, adduct the legs towards one another to activate the inside thighs. And you're also pressing the thigh bones away from you to get into those deep hip external rotators. Pelvis remains still. Toes parallel, legs together. Toes on the bar, big toes touching, straighten and bend. Within a range that your knees and legs stay parallel and together. The heels will be ever so slightly apart, but big toes together. And as you straighten the legs, engage your quads, drawing the kneecaps towards your hips. Pressing the thighs away so you get into the hip extensors as well. You're in that slight rise, and now calf rises, 20 of these. It's quite intense, 20. Do what you can. If I was to poke the thighs, the quads are engaged. Make sure both quads are engaged. The deep hip external rotators are also engaged by thinking of pressing the thighs away from you and slightly drawing your sit bones towards one another. Smooth movement on the way up and down. You're pressing your toes against the bar, feeling the resistance of the springs on the way up and down. Inside thighs reaching up. Prehensile plies, arches of your foot on the bar and toes wrapped around the bar like your feet are hands. Legs are together. Bend and straighten the legs once again within a range that you can keep your legs engaged and together. Squeeze the inside thighs together as you bend, and then as you straighten, press the thigh bones away from you and the inside thighs up towards the ceiling. Contracting the soles of the feet by curling your toes towards your heels. Into prances, so toes on the bar, legs are parallel once again. We just do one at a time. 3, 4, 10 of these. 5, fully straighten and then bend. 6, fully straighten the knees. 7, 8, it's pretty intense. Keep your face calm. Well done. Feet down. I'm taking my socks off because I find that when I get really hot, I need to take my socks off. And then we're going to finish off those prances. So toes together, legs engaged, press the bar right up towards the ceiling whilst anchoring the tailbone down. Straighten the knees as you transition from side to side. Really activating the whole of the leg from the toes through to the hips. Feet down, have a rest. And we're going to do a single leg. It's called flossing, other leg hovering off the table. Left foot on the bar, left knee bent, right leg out along the table. Straighten the left leg, flex the foot, point and then bend. 10 of these. The right leg is hovering just off the table. The right leg, the back of the leg is engaged, co-contracting around the right hip socket. If I was to poke around the back of your right leg, it's engaged. Keeping the left knee engaged as you flex and point the foot. Great for stretching the sciatic nerve. Very strengthening for the feet and the calves. Keeping the integrity of leg alignment, knee in line with the middle toe. I'm just having a little rest in between, and then we'll do the other side. When you're ready, right foot on the bar in line with your hip socket. Legs are parallel, left leg is hovering off the table, and the left leg is fully engaged. Back of the leg contracting. Now start with the right knee bent, and then you're going to push the bar up. You're on a rise, and then flex the ankle, point the ankle, and then bend. Plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, return. Keep the plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. Keep the plantar flexion as you bend your right knee. Think of drawing the inside thighs towards one another to help you connect to your center line. Lengthening the thighs away from your hips, lengthening the fingertips down to activate your mid-back muscles. Pressing the right thigh away, getting to those hip extensors. It is strong with 2 springs on, so just do what you can. If that is too much, you can always do all of that with 1 bottom-loaded spring on. ITB reach on the heel. Put your feet up on the bar, feet in a V position, heels together, toes apart. Now put your left heel where your right ball of the foot was, and then line yourself up so that the heels are in line with your pubic bone and nose. Bend your left knee, now straighten your left leg and then bend the left knee. The legs are in external rotation. The left knee will bend towards your left armpit. The right back of the leg once again is engaged, so the hip extensors are working to co-contract around the hip socket. Pressing the left foot up, pressing the right leg out. As you straighten the leg, think of drawing the inside thighs together and wrapping the external rotators around the thighs. Other leg. To get into it, toes up on the bar, heels together, toes apart, so you're in a V position. And then put your right heel where your left ball of the foot was, and then reach your left leg out. Have a look, make sure that both heels are in line with your pubic bone, navel and nose. And then you bend your right knee so the knee goes out to the side towards the armpit. And then as you straighten, think of drawing the legs towards one another. Both back of legs are engaged. Both thighs are engaged when the knees are straight. The toes are curling towards your knees to activate your knee stabilizing muscles. Check in, do a body scan, making sure that you're not tensing the neck and the upper trapezius. Good. We're going to do bottom loaded monkey. So I'm taking one spring off. Obviously you need to be trained to do this, so make sure that you know what you're doing. Toes on the bar, heels together, hands are on the bar. Your pelvis is underneath the bar. Straighten the legs, 1. And then bend and return, 2. Straighten the legs, 3. The heels are pressing together here. Bend the elbows to draw your forehead towards your shins. Plantar flexion here with the heels together. Really nip the ribs in towards the hips to open up the thoracolumbar area. Press the heels together to activate the adductors, and that'll also help get into the external rotators. Okay, come out from underneath that and take the bottom loaded spring off. Get rid of that safety chain. This next section we are going to be doing back work. When the bar is spring loaded from the top, it's really dangerous. So you need to definitely know what you're doing here. Be very careful as you go into this next exercise. I'm putting the spring bar, the push through bar rather, down because I'm about to go into back extension, so I don't want my shoulders to be too hyperextended. The top loaded spring is on, and this is the bit where it's dangerous because it is spring loaded from above. Be very careful. Instructors have been known to lose teeth when not mindful of doing this. Feet are under the strap. Imprint your pubic bone down into the floor so you're co-contracting the back of the legs and the abdominals. Shoulder shrugs. Shoulders go into elevation and then depression. They laterally rotate as you elevate, and then they medially rotate as you depress the scapula. Collarbones go up around your ears, and then they draw down away from your ears. Using the upper trapezius and then using your lats and your lower trapezius as you pull the shoulder blades down. I've got my nose slightly touching the table here, so my neck is in a neutral alignment. Really beautiful stretch. Into thoracic extension. So with your shoulder blades in a neutral position, you arch your upper spine and then return to neutral. Reach your breastplate forward and then nip your ribs in towards your hips to return. The legs are engaged. We want to lift your breastplate off but keep the lower rib cage on, so you're moving from around the thoracic T6, T7, T8 area, and with reaching forward, feel like your ribs are sliding forward as you lift your chest up whilst keeping your obliques engaged. And then into extension. Because we're going into lumbar extension here, the legs are in external rotation to allow for space in your lower back. And actually think of pivoting in the hip joint rather than your lower back. As I lift up, I'm pushing my hands down to activate the obliques and serratus. And think of lifting your ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine, up off the table whilst you're imprinting your pubic bone down. Therefore, the movement is happening in the hip. Bar behind head. Hands go behind, the bar goes behind your head, 1. Just having a rest here. Okay, imprint your pubic bone down, the legs are in external rotation, quads, hamstrings, adductors engaged. Bar goes behind your head and then you extend up and then draw the bar behind your head and return to the start position. Breathing in as you go into extension from the hip sockets, and then breathing out ribs to hips to return. As you go up into the extension, your abs are still engaged whilst they're in that eccentric contraction. It's not just the back of the body, it's the front of the body that's engaged as well. Elbows wide, and then you're lifting up from the back of the legs. Obliques are engaged as you go into extension, and then concentric contraction in the obliques as you return to neutral. Be careful as you come out of this. Rolling onto your side, gently lift the bar up and then slide your feet out. Limon Situp 2 and 3. Once again, it's top loaded. Lying on your back, head is on the table, pelvis in neutral, scapula depressed, thoracic extension, so flexion rather, roll up, reach the right leg out and then roll back down. Other side, so flex through the thoracic and then reach up, and then rolling back down. Ribs to hips, keep the ribs to hips together as you extend the leg. Ribs to hips, keep the ribs to hips engaged as you engage your quad. A few more of these. Stay on the space between your sit bones and your coccyx as you roll up and extend the leg. The challenge here is to engage the quad and keep that slight flexion through your spine. Both legs, you're rolling up and then extend both legs and then roll back down. Using your obliques and your quads to draw your thighs towards you as best you can. Reach the inside thighs away, press the heels together to get into the deep external rotators of your hips. Ribs to hips to really flex through that thoracolumbar area. Anywhere between 4 to 6 of these. The challenge here is to roll up without elevating the scapula. Try and keep the scapula laterally depressed and rotated. Good work. Push through on the back with a roll up. I'm actually just grabbing a Swiss ball or a physio ball here to put my feet on. So grab one of them, put it on the table This is a great way of teaching people teaser, but with the support of the physio ball. We're going to start with your feet on the ball, holding onto the push-through bar. And you just want to test that to see if the bar can go over your head. So I'm just moving down so that it clears my face. Just going to shuffle down a little bit more. And in fact, that was too low, so I'm repositioning the push-through bar up a notch. So for when I do back extension work, I like to have the push-through bar down on its lowest level there, but for the abdominal work, you can put it up slightly to clear the face. Feet in a V, imprint your lower back, legs are straightened together, and reach the bar over your head and bend the elbows, roll up through the spine, lifting all the way up, stay in that posterior tilt of the pelvis, and then again, scapula laterally rotate, and then flex through the thoracic, keep the posterior tilt and the lateral rotation of the shoulder blades. Upper trapezius soft. Try and maintain that position as you come up. Quads, inside thighs, back of the legs engaged by pressing the heels together and drawing the kneecaps up. And we'll do up to 6 of these. Imagining the ball's not there, like you're really using your thighs and your core to hold the legs off the ball, but obviously they're on it. And the challenge here is as you roll up with your upper body, armpits towards the feet, inside thighs together, posterior tilt of the pelvis. Good, well done. It's a great way of teaching that rolling through the mid to lower spine. I'm just getting rid of the ball here and getting that out of the way of the camera. And we're going to go into side sitting 2 and 3. We're all set up with the push-through bar on the top loaded with one spring, legs together, arms out. So laterally bend, press the bar down, reach the hip off, and then initiate the roll by anchoring that hip down. And again, push the bar down, scapular stability challenge here, and then anchor the hip down and roll back up to sitting. The challenge is to push the bar down and laterally bend without hiking the shoulders up. Once again, that cue of pressing the armpits in the direction that they're facing will help you engage the mid-back muscles. Push through 3. This is a really challenging exercise. You bend as you straighten out the legs and then keep pivoting on that hip as you return to the side, return back to sitting and then back up. So scapular stability, laterally bending the spine, and then laterally bend to the other side as you rotate onto the hip, fold at the hip and then return back up to sitting. Laterally bend the spine towards the floor and then up towards the ceiling. And now swing the legs forward as you press the bar hand down into the bar to help you return back to sitting. So bending to the right, bending to the left, bending to the right as you return, and then return to neutral. Other side. That takes a while to get that one. Side sitting 2, laterally bend, over you go. Lift the hip, drop the hip down, return. Scapular stability. Press the bar down, laterally bend over to the left. Keep bending over to the left. Anchor the right hip down and then return. This feels really nice on the spine. Engaging the left side of the spine. Hollow out the belly as you return to engage the internal obliques. And a few more of these. Really beautiful stretch on the right side of your spine. Keep lifting up and out of the pelvis to get into those internal obliques. Pressing the left hand into the bar to help you laterally rotate that left shoulder blade. Initiate the return by anchoring the right sit bone down and then lengthening up. Side sitting 3. So bend over like side sitting 1, straighten the legs. And now curve the spine to the right, curve the spine to the left, and then return back to the start. Scapular stability 1, side bend. And now try and activate the back of the legs to bring them in line with your hips, and then fold at the hips, bring the legs forward and return. Keep lifting up and out of your pelvis, reaching out through the head, the feet, activate the back of the legs. Now press the bar arm down into the bar to help you return. Over you go. Armpits, press them in the direction that they're facing. Whoop. That just shows you how challenging the stability to balance on the side of the greater trochanter there is quite challenging. That's where you've got to work the hip extensors and the scapular stabilizers. Good. Well done. Push through 2 and 3. Feet are up against the poles, hands are on the bar. Either legs straight or knees bent, whatever you need to do to be on top of your sit bones. C-curve back 1. Reach the left arm around towards the opposite side. And then return the hand to the bar and return to sitting. C-curve back 1, shoulder blades down. Reach the right arm away from the right foot. And then ribs to hips, and then elongate up. Hollow the belly out. Press into your left heel as you reach your left arm in the opposite direction. Rolling onto the coccyx, activate the hamstrings. Press into your right heel as you laterally bend, and then return. Such a nice stretch. Straighten the legs, push through 3 is like saw. Reach the right hand to the outside of the left foot, pulse 1, breathe in to prepare. Deepen the twist 2, breathe in to prepare, hold it there. Breathing out, deepen the rotation 3, and then return back to sitting. Left hand to the outside of your right foot. Push the bar up with your right hand and then press the left hand against your right ankle 1, hold it there. Breathing in, lengthen the spine. Breathing out, push the left hand into the left ankle, deepen it 2. Breathing in, lengthen up and out. Breathing out, deepen the twist 3, and then return back up to sitting 4. Again, rotate. Breathing in to lengthen. Breathing out to deepen the twist, right rib towards the left hip. Right rib towards the left hip, and then return to sitting. Rotate, the quads are engaged. Left rib towards the right hip, contracting the right side of your spine, stretching the left side of your spine, deepening with each out breath, and then return back to sitting. Beautiful stretch. And then leaning forward into a lat stretch. So really tilting the sit bones back. It's like you're anteriorly tilting your pelvis, activating the quads, and then allow your armpits and your chest to reach towards your feet. Stretching out through the ribs, the lats, teres minor, and return. Late beginner leg spring series. Put the leg springs on. I like to position them the length of the springs and the straps. Lying on your back, get rid of that push-through bar in a safe way. It's very dangerous, the equipment, if you don't know how to use it correctly and safely. Hands are on the bars and then your arms are straight, so that's the position, so your arm length away from the poles. Put your feet in the straps. We're going into scissors, beats, bicycle and diamond. Really pressing the hands into the poles so you get that equal and opposite pressure through your body. Press the left leg down and then the right leg. You're in a neutral pelvis here. Hip extension, hip extension. The challenge is to actually integrate your scapular stabilizers with your internal and external obliques whilst working the hip extensors and the adductors. So we're stabilizing through your shoulders. Now into beats. So lower the legs down, turn them out. Beat 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pushing the heels of the hands into the poles. The upper shoulders are soft. Keep reaching with every beat out through the inside thighs. Don't let the springs bounce around, up and down. Into walking. The legs are together and parallel. Lower one leg down, then the other, then the other, then the other, all the way down towards the table, and then one leg up, hold it there, other leg up, hold it there, other leg up. Good. Okay, the challenge here is to move the legs independently without the hips and the pelvis rotating left and right. Once again, scapular stabilizers integrating with the internal and external obliques. The pelvic floor is being activated by drawing the inside thighs towards one another. And really lengthening the feet away so you get that length out through the internal obliques. Pivoting in the hip sockets without rotating the headlights of the hips left and right. Into diamond. Feet are together, knees apart. Try and draw the outside of the feet towards one another. It's a really nice stretch. The distance between your heels and the coccyx remain the same, so don't bend the knees as you lower the legs down. We're pivoting from the hips. Think of initiating the movement with the knees on the way down, and then think of initiating with the heels on the way up. External rotators, internal rotators. Hip external rotators by initiating with the knees, and then hip internal rotators as you draw the heels back up. Pressing the knees down, heels up towards your nose. Side lie leg springs. Put the spring on the inside, so it's in the middle of the spring bar. And I'm going to use the strap to support my lower leg. If you don't have that, you don't need to do this, but it's a great way of activating the inside thighs. Just making sure that that's taut. Just need to fiddle around with this a little to get this right. And you lie on your side, you're towards the back of the long end of the table, but you're on it, so I don't want you to fall off. And then put your top foot through the strap. You want to be perched on the lower greater trochanter, and your left hand is pushing either into the front pole or have your arm in line with your torso. Heels together, toes apart. Lift the leg up and then lower it back down. This is a grand battement. Pivoting in the hip and then inside thighs. The bottom leg is activated, quads are engaged, hamstrings are engaged. and that top leg is slightly forward of my body to accommodate for the rotation of the hip socket. The challenge here is not only pelvic stability, so as the leg lifts and lower, you don't want to roll on the underneath hip bone, but it's also to keep the inside thighs activated on the way up as well. So rondegem, the leg goes forward, you lift it up, and then it goes back behind you and then return to the start position, so the heels towards one another. Now think of externally rotating the top leg, lift it up. Now as it goes back into extension, think of internally rotating the top leg and then return the heels together. External rotation, lift it up, and then as it goes back, it's still in external rotation, but you're thinking of rolling the thigh bone inwards. Quad, hip extensors, inside thigh, inside thigh. Now reverse it, internally rotate as the leg goes behind you. Lift the leg up, as it goes forward, externally rotate it, and then use those deep hip muscles at the back. Glute and hamstring. Inside thigh and quad, and then hip extensors and inside thigh. Quad engaged here. Lift, reach, return. Keeping the pelvis as steady as you can, getting into those hip sockets. Such a nice feeling, stretching the hips out. Hot potato, legs are in internal rotation, 2 forward, 2 back, and now 3 forward, 1, 2, 3, 3 back, 2, 3, up to 6 of these, 4, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drawing the kneecaps up, rib to hip connection, so your obliques are engaged. Sit bones are drawing down to the back of the thighs, so that you're stabilizing the hip sockets. And really focusing on the inside thigh pressing against the spring. The inside thigh pushes the spring. Well done. Squeeze the legs together there. Other side. So these exercises are fantastic for strengthening the inside thighs and also great for increasing pelvic stability. So for people with unstable lower back, put one foot in, lying on your side. You can either put your right hand against the pole or have it underneath your arm. Make sure you're straight, so feet, pelvis and head and shoulders in one line. Heels are pressing together, the legs are in external rotation, grand battement, lift and lower with control. It doesn't matter how high your leg goes. You want to feel the resistance of the spring on the way up, feel the resistance on the way down. And if I was to poke around the inside thighs and the back of the legs on both legs, they're activated. Really emphasizing that pressing the heels together. Lifting and then lowering. The leg is slightly forward of you to accommodate that rotation as you abduct the leg without compensating through the hips, isolating at the hip socket. Rondegem, forward, up, back behind you, and then sweep it through, touch the heels together. Quad, lift, and then internally rotate the leg as it extends back behind you. Legs are in external rotation. Draw it up, leg engaged, reach, and return. Again, forward, lift, and then internally rotate the thigh, draw it back together. Now back behind you. Lift, forward, return. Moving the thigh and the hip socket, rotating, and then externally rotate it there, sweep it back. Reaching both thighs out of the hip sockets. One more, controlling the spring, controlling the legs. Into hot potato. Legs are in parallel, big toes touching, heels apart. Forward and back one time, and then forward twice, and then back twice. Controlling the movement of the spring. 3 forward, 3 back. Tap, tap. 4 forward, adductors. Right up around the groin. Think of the groin muscles pressing the foot against the strap. The kneecaps are lifting up so your quads are engaged. The back of the legs are engaged to co-contract and stabilize the hip sockets. The bottom leg is just as active as the top leg. And then do a little body scan as well, making sure you're not overcompensating through your upper shoulders and your neck. 5 forward, and then, sorry, that's 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then draw the legs together. Good. Take your foot out of the strap. We're going to hang from the horizontals with a shoulder shrug. And I love finishing a workout with this. Clients love it as well. It's so good for your back. And in fact, I was given this by an osteopath years and years ago just to hang from the back of a door. So I really love doing this. Allow your shoulders to go right up around your ears. You might even want to take your feet off the ground and imagine there's like a weight that divers use around your pelvis, just really gently pulling your pelvis down out of your spine. And then we're having a little rest. The hard thing about that is the grip on your hands, so stretch them out, and you can even use a sticky mat as well around the horizontal bar. Now we're going to do shoulder shrugs. So you pull your shoulders down and then up around your ears. You can lightly have your feet on the floor, but really working those shoulder pull down muscles, lower trapezius, lats, serratus, mid-back muscles. Collarbones up, collarbones down. Collarbones go up around your ears and down, making it as even as you can. Anywhere between 6 to 10 of these. And if you want more of a challenge, you lift your feet off the floor. Well done. Stretch your hands out. Have a glute stretch. Leg up on the table, pigeon stretch, and then leaning over, breathing into your hip. Think of stretching out the hips, thigh bones reaching out at the hip sockets. And then the other side. One leg up, and then over you go. Breathing, creating space in the stretch. And then we're finished. I hope you're feeling fabulous. Thanks a million. Take care. Bye.